So today's guest is drummer Jon Larsen, an original member of the Danish hard rock band Volbeat. He's been there from the beginning, but he joins us today to talk about their new album, God of Angels Trust, and their upcoming summer U.S. tour. Jon, nice to have you on. How are you?
Well, I'm good, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're welcome. So listen, congratulations on the new album. It's a really, really good one, and we're going to get all into that one. But normally we do our listener questions at the back end of the show, but I want to do a listener question at the front end of the show. So this comes from Sean Murphy in Richmond, Virginia. So he said, Jon, hey, I know the band was formed from the ashes of death metal band Dominus. However, can you set the record straight as to where the name Volbeat came from?
It came. Let's see if I actually remember it correctly. So long ago. Well, it came because Dominus had an album called Volume Beat, actually, which is VOL.beat, and I guess he just, he had that name in the back of his head, but he just removed the dot, and then it became Volbeat, actually. But that's basically how I remember it. He had the name from the beginning. He said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna call it Volbeat," and I was like, "Vol what? Like volume beat?" And he said, "Yeah, well, yeah, I took out the dot, but Volbeat, short, everybody can pronounce it. Make a simple logo. It's going to be great." I was like, all right. I had no idea what it meant. And then we found out not long ago, after, actually, he was working at a public school. And one of the kids came up to him one day laughing his head off. And he's like, what are you laughing about? "Oh, your stupid band name is a Pokemon figure." I was like, "Shut the fuck up. What are you talking about, you stupid kid?" "No, it's a Pokemon figure." So he went online, and yeah, sure enough, there is a Pokemon figure called Volbeat, which is one of the most uncool Pokemon figures of all time, actually. It's a little fat blue fly that really can't do anything. I think it can squirt water or something, so it's not really metal.
Wow. So you taught me something new. I didn't even know that. And hey, at least you guys didn't get a lawsuit from some Japanese gaming company or something, right?
Nope. No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
So Jon, again, thinking about back to that beginning, I mean, obviously you came in very early on when the demos were being written.
Yeah.
Dominus was a death metal band, but I've always been curious, how did you guys transition, let's say, from this death metal sound over to Volbeat's signature sound of, let's say, metal, rockabilly, a little country, a little punk in there? Like, how did that sound start?
Well, I think, first of all, back then, when he disbanded Dominus, he did that for, I guess, several reasons. I'm not even sure if I know all the reasons, but I think one of the reasons was that he was tired at that point of playing that type of music. And especially back then, if you played death metal, it had to sound in a different way. You couldn't, just go a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. It had to sound a specific way. And because Dominus had been experimenting with their sound, if you listen to all four albums, they're actually very different albums, all four of them. And I guess because, he grew up with all, the music of the 50s. His parents would listen to that. Obviously everybody knows about Elvis and Cash, but all the other stuff from the 50s, I grew up with the bands from the 60s, the Beatles, the Stones, Kings, Who, Manfred Mann, and all that stuff. So we had kind of a common ground. And he told me, I think, one of the very first time we met, and he said, "I have these ideas." I was like, all right. I had no idea what he was playing. I thought he would continue down the death metal, black metal path or whatever. And the first riff he ever played for me had this kind of Black Sabbath, Children of the Grave kind of vibe to it. Not a rip-off of Children of the Grave, but that vibe. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. And I laid some basic drums on top of it because I was thinking, oh, this is like Children of the Grave. That's kind of cool. Okay. And then the next thing he played me was more in the vein of, let's say, Offspring, Green Day type of pop punk. And I was like, okay, that's definitely not the Sabbath vibe, but okay, he's trying stuff, he's trying different ways. And the third thing that he played was more in the vein of early Metallica. And I was, again, that's kind of strange, but okay, he's maybe trying to find out what he want to do. And I remember I said to him, I said, well, this is kind of interesting, but what direction do you want to go? Should it be more like in the vein of perhaps Sabbath, or are we talking Misfits, Offspring, punk type of music, or you want to go straight down the Metallica road, which so many bands have done before? And he said, no, let's just play whatever we want to play. If it sounds like a Misfits song, fantastic. If it has a Sabbath vibe to it, even better. If it sounds like a ripoff of Metallica, who fucking cares? Let's just play whatever we want to play. And that's basically how this so-called Volbeat sound came about. It was like, well, if he comes up with something that sounds like a Metallica song, but it works for us, hey, let's go. If he adds, a country element to it, fine, if it works, and we've always done that, and we actually still do that to this day. We don't really think, and say, oh, it gotta sound like this, or it has to be something like that, because then people will go absolutely bonkers about it. It's just like, no, let's throw everything up on the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. Well, and it's not, and now it's expected, right? Your albums are expected to have that mixture of different styles. It's what we become used to 9 albums in. But Jon, I'm gonna share a personal story about Volbeat. So the first time I saw you guys was back in New York City in 2012 on, I think it was called the Gigantor Tour. It was Motorhead, Megadeth, Lacuna Coil, you guys, and I think there was one other band. And I remember sitting in the GA section of the floor, and I was speaking to Jose Mangin, who's a really big DJ on U.S. radio on Sirius XM, and he lived in New Jersey at the time. And I remember going up to him and then saying, I've heard of Volbeat, but I don't really know Volbeat. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? He goes, they're going to be the most unique band you have heard in a long time. He goes, think Elvis metal. And he goes, trust my words. He goes, these guys are going to be huge someday. So, you know what? That was, I don't know, 10, 13 years ago. But now looking back in 20 years ago from the start of this band, how does it make you feel knowing Volbeat is probably one of the biggest hard rock bands in the world? I mean, you guys have sold over 11 million albums. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy, and it's still crazy that in some ways that we're still here. We've been around for 24 years. I mean, obviously not at the level that we are now, but just the fact that we are still around, 24 years down the road. I mean, if you had asked me about, when we started, oh, you guys are going to be around for like 20, 25 years, I would say you're completely out of your mind. You must be on drugs, and can I have some of that? Because that sounds awesome. But yeah, I'm still puzzled by the fact that we're actually still around, and we're still able to put out albums. We're still able to go out on tour. It's really just incredible, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, Jon, when it comes to the U.S., though, right? I will tell you again. I live in northern New Jersey, not too far out of New York City, and we have a local rock radio station that's still an FM station, which is a rarity in and of itself, called WDHA, and they play the shit out of Volbeat. I'm telling you, you hear your back catalog. I mean, they're playing a ton of stuff off of the new album all the time. But I was wondering, like, what do you think about like your sound? Like, what about your sound eventually broke you guys into this commercially successful place in the U.S.?
I think one of the reasons is definitely that radio picked it up. That's a huge factor still in the U.S. A lot of the college radio and even some of the major radio stations started to pick up on some of the songs. And I like to think definitely that another fact is that we toured our asses off. We went to the U.S. for the first time in 2009. where we were supporting Nightwish for a short, was it like 2 or 3 weeks with Nightwish, where we played mostly the East Coast and down south. And then we got picked up by Metallica, actually. And Metallica took us out, took us to Canada, took us to some of the biggest arenas around the US. We played in Madison Square Garden with Metallica, for instance. That definitely helped a lot too. And, you know, we, along with the management, said, you know, when we were done, I remember with the Metallica tour in, was it 09 or 10, they said, well, we're going to have you guys back next year, and you're going to play the exact same cities that you did with Metallica. Obviously, we didn't play the arenas, we played clubs, but, you know, we just kept coming back over and over and over again. And I like to think that actually has helped a lot, that we've been touring so much as we have.
Mm-hmm. You know, on the Metallica front, I was going to ask you about that. Obviously, Lars Ulrich is you know, Danish, you know, and obviously he got you guys on the groundwork. Was he the catalyst that kind of got the word out that said, hey, I've heard these guys? Because, you know, you think back, it wasn't just your beginning days. I mean, you were on major arena tours. I think it was the Hardwired tour. There was another tour. You played the Orion Fest. I think you were on one of the big 4 shows over in Switzerland. You did a cover on the Metallica tribute charity album. So there's like definitely some, let's say, roots there with that Metallica camp.
Yeah, I mean, the very first show that we did with Metallica was actually here in Denmark in 2007, where they were doing, I think it was one of those Escape from the Studios tour that they used to do back then. And I think Lars had asked around in the Danish media, so what's cooking in Denmark right now? Who are the bands that everybody is talking about? And I guess a lot of those media men kept mentioning our name, and I guess he kind of went, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's great. We'll have those guys out for that show. But in reality, I think actually it has been James who has been pushing us, because I remember at that show in Denmark, he came out to say hello, which was very nice of him. And I clearly remember he said, yeah, I heard you guys are playing some sort of Elvis metal. There it is. I think I like it. And we were like, oh, yeah, you know, that's very nice. You know, thank you so much. And he said, yeah, I'm going to be watching you guys from the side of the stage. And I was thinking, it's like, yes, you are. Yeah, sure. James Hetfield, of course you will. Yeah. You know, but lo and behold, when we played, I looked over to my left, and there he was, actually sitting with, I think, one of his children on his lap. I think maybe his daughter or something at that point. And I was like, holy shit, he is actually watching part of the show. So when that tour came about in 2009, I think actually he was the one who said, I want those guys. Because I think at that point, Metallica was picking their own support acts and said, you know, okay, we can have Gojira is going to do this leg. Whoever picked those guys. I know Lars was a huge fan of the Sword. So I think he picked those guys. So I think actually James was the one who said, I want those Volbeat guys to do part of the tour. And that was, you know, it was amazing in so many ways, you know, just to be able to go out with arguably the biggest metal band of all time. You know, that it was an eye opener on many levels, but it was also a tough one because, you know, that was one of the tours where they had that in the round stage type of thing. So all the people down in front of the rails, that was all the Met Club members, the diehard Metallica fans. I just remember thinking, oh shit, we're in trouble. I mean, you got Lamb of God, who was the main support on the run that we did, and then Metallica, and then we come out with our Elvis metal or whatever you want to call it. And it was like, oh shit, we're going to get killed every night. But we didn't get killed every night. There were a few who was flipping the finger and all that stuff, but that happens when you're an opening act or a support act, you know, that happens. But it's just, I remember one guy, I think he was screaming, you suck, or something. And Michael said, yeah, I know we suck, but we still got 45 minutes left. So F you.
Wow.
But you know, there's no doubt that going on tour with those guys definitely helped.
Yeah. Where do you guys still in communication? I mean, obviously you're a headliner of your own now, so you kind of the birdie has flown away from the coop per
Yeah.
se, but are you still kind of in touch with these guys? Any dialogue still?
I think Michael and James are texting a little bit back and forth every now and then.
Okay.
We did a show with them. When the hell was that? Was that 2 years ago? See, I don't even remember anymore. When they started their 72 Seasons tour, we did a show with them in Sweden, actually. Was that in 22 or 23? No, it must have been 2023.
2023
Yeah,
was the start of the 72 Seasons touring cycle.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was the summer of 23. We did that one show with them in Gothenburg. So that was cool. It was nice. Both Lars and James came in and said hi, and said, how's everything going? Is everything right? Yes. Yeah, sure. And, obviously, as a lot of people know, when we did our own headline show in was it 16 at Parken, Lars came out and played a song with us.
Yeah, that's big stuff. Well, good to hear that you guys are still in communication in this big metal world. So, Jon, moving into the new album, the title and the album art, right? God of Angels Trust. I mean, it's an eerie cover. The horned goat keeps popping up in all kinds of places. It's entering the child's bedroom. It's on the wall of one of the videos. So maybe just quickly before we get into the songwriting and the songs, like talk about the album title, like where'd that come about and how you kind of tied the significance of the cover art into it.
Ooh, that's actually more of a Michael question than
Okay.
I can probably not give you a very good answer for it. I don't know where he got the idea for the title, actually. I have honestly no idea. One day he just said, yeah, we're going to call it God of Angels Trust Goat. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure, why not? And then he showed the artwork, well, first versions of the artwork, with the goat and all that stuff. And it was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Goats are cool. So, yeah, he's a nice goat. He looks sweet. That sounds good. But a funny part of it is actually a lot of people, we did a lot of press before we went on tour in Canada. And a lot of people actually have asked us if we have become a satanic band. I was like, no, why? Yeah, because of the goat. The goat is satanic. No, it's not really. The goat is not satanic. He's a nice goat. His name is Thor. He's a nice goat. So we're definitely not a satanic band at all. But I guess as for the cover artwork, I think the idea was actually that the goat might present, evil, but not satanic evil or anything. But, goats has always been associated with evil images, especially in the satanic stuff, but it's not satanic. But I think the idea was kind of like that even in her bedroom where you're supposed to be safe, you're not really safe because evil, if you want to put it like that, is there. But like I said, it's not a satanic evil. It can mean all types of evil, actually. But you're supposed
Sure.
When you are in your bedroom, in your home, that's where you're supposed to be safe from all the shit that's going around in the world, and yet perhaps you're not.
Well, you could also look at it and say goat, greatest of all time. Maybe it's a little analogy there as well.
Well, there could be. I mean, it can be a lot of things.
Sure. Well, it's kind of funny. I get a chuckle, but I would never peg Volbeat as a satanic band. I mean, listen, you got to write content, you got to write lyrics, you got to sell product, and there's got to be something fun about it. And it ties back into some of the songs and the videos. But Jon, it's a really heavy album. I think I know the whole discography of Volbeat, but I think this album, along with Servant of the Mind, your last album, they're pretty heavy. But we heard that this one was a quick one. Like it was the writing and the recording. You guys were in and out. So maybe what was the game plan for this one? And sort of as it was phrased, there was a no rules approach of sorts.
Well, we never really had, any of these rules. Like I said earlier, if it comes out like a country-based song, fine. If it works, we'll play it. So there weren't really rules as such. What I remember was that he said, let's cut it down to 10 songs at the most. Maybe have 9 songs on the album, maybe one song for I don't know, a B-side or, bonus tracks or whatever. But it came down to 10 tracks, actually. And one of the reasons for that was it seems like we found out, even with Servant of the Mind, which had, how many songs were on that one? Like 14, 15 songs or something. I don't remember. But it seems like once you reach past song number 8 or 9, people don't really know the last 2, 3, 4 songs. Seems like it. Maybe people's attention span has become shorter over the years. I'm not sure. So we said, let's cut it down to 10 tracks, try to make each track equally good, and then see what happens. And let's perhaps not think too much about what we're doing. Let's see what's going to happen. And, we started rehearsing, was it February? We started, and he had a few ideas that we were trying out. And, for each rehearsal, he basically came in with a new song. So the songs came very, very quickly. And by the end, I think we started in February of that year. And by the end of April, I think we had the 10 songs. And so we started, just rehearsing those songs over and over and over and see if they would hold up. And then he said, he was going on tour with As in Hell during the summer. So he said, when I come back from the tour, let's see if the songs are still good enough. And if they are, let's go in the studio and record them. And he did. And he came back, and there was actually one of the songs that didn't really worked. There was something about it that we couldn't really figure out what it was, but it didn't feel natural. There was something forced about it, but we couldn't figure out why. So in the end, it was like, okay, we think this part is kind of good, but the rest is not really good. And he said, okay, I'll see you guys in 2 days, and I'll probably have a new thing. And he did, and I think that was what became By a Monster's Hand, actually.
Okay, wow.
And then we went in the studio, and we wanted to record it a bit more organic, make it sound more organic. So we told our producer, Jacob, we said, all those fancy robots that you have in the studio, all your samples, all that stuff, forget it. Let's record the drums where they sound like a drum kit, that it sounds like who's playing the drums and not, I wouldn't say a machine, but get rid of all the samples, all the triggers and all that stuff. If there's maybe one hit on the snare that's not equally hard as the other hits, if it sounds good, let's leave it. So that's basically what we did. We went back to kind of record it like we used to, especially on the first 2 albums, maybe 3 albums, which was like that. Also, the equipment that we had at the time and what Jacob had at the time. And we said, let's make it a bit more organic. Let it sound like it's a band playing. If there's a little mistake here and there, but it sounds good, let's leave it. And he was all up for that. He said, that's going to be interesting. So that's basically what we did. And we had the songs and we knew what to do. So it took us, 2.5 weeks, and then we were done.
That's unbelievable. If you think about it, the ideation comes in through Michael. You guys get together and you kind of knock it out really quick. But, it's funny, you talk about the sequence of the album, but there is an intention here, right? Like By a Monster's Hand opens the album, but then there's a sequel closes the album, Enlighten the Disorder, and, it is funny. So they do tie together. By a Monster's Hand, it's getting a lot of great airplay in the US, but the video especially, I mean, wow, it's like the suburbia regular guy, nice guy, talking his neighbors turned serial killer. So maybe comment a little bit about the storyboard and maybe just disclose who exactly is the main character in the video.
He is a combination of a lot of people. He's not based around one serial killer or anything like that. He's based around, a lot of those, and we're not going to mention any names because there's no need to promote any of those guys at all. But I think one of the ideas was actually because he looks like your neighbor or anything, a very nice guy talking to people, and again, that whole thing about evil can be right next door to you. The nicest guy can turn out to be a not so nice guy. I think that was one of the ideas definitely behind it. And the guy who did the video, or is the main guy in the video, was also the guy who was in the Shotgun Blues video. But he looked so amazing, so it's like, can we get that guy to do it again? And he was up for it, and it's great, you know. But I think he's based around, you know, a lot of those people.
Okay. It was funny. I saw a resemblance to your bass player Casper. I said, "Is that Casper in there? You know, doing double duty?" But
well, there you go. I haven't really thought about that. Oh, now I get something to pick his brain about. Maybe Casper is a serial killer in his free time.
is that your brother, by the way, or is it just a coincidence you have the same last name? Okay.
No, it's a very common surname in Denmark. You know, so
okay.
No, we're not brothers and we're not married to each other.
Well, there you go. Not that there would be anything wrong with that in this day and age, but anyway, we joke about it. But you know, you guys have 3 singles in total out now, but my God, In the Barn of the Goat, Giving Birth to Satan's Spawn in a Dying World of Doom. I mean, that could be the longest title of all time. It's a great song, great video, and this is where that element of, you know, classic Volbeat comes in. It starts off with that country twang, and then it builds into the heavy stuff. But maybe just enlighten us, like, how did you guys come up with this title? Was it like a joke in the room? You're like, can we write the longest title ever?
I thought it was a joke. I don't know where he got the title from, but he had the title pretty early on, and I thought it was a joke, to be honest. I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of funny, but is it a joke? And he said, no, it's not a joke. This is going to be the title of the song. And it is a throwback to some of the very, very early stuff like Pool of Booze and songs like that. The only thing that's kind of different is actually he said, let's make a song with no chorus. It's like, okay, you know, yeah, sure, whatever. He said, let the title actually be the chorus. But it's not a chorus per se as such, you know, like a normal chorus. But he said, let's build up the song. So when we get to the title, that's going to be like sort of chorus to the song. I was like, yeah, okay. But again, it's one of those songs where he had, I would say 95% of everything was done when he showed it to Casper and I. And it was like, okay, so we're going to build it up and then we're going to take it down and then he's going to say the title and that's it, basically.
Wow. Well, it definitely stands out. I don't know if you play that one live. I don't know how you print that one on the set list. You must have to abbreviate it or something, but
I think it's just called the Goat Song.
The Goat Song. Got it. Okay. So, you know, Jon, there's a lot of awesome songs on this album. I go back to like the heavy stuff. Like my favorite riffs on the album come from the song At the Ends of the Sirens. It's that doomy riff. But then you got songs like Devils Are Awake, Demonic Depression. These are just your typical, you know, heavy, rich with riffs. Yet then there's the contrasts, right? Where he comes in with like the good melodies and the harmonies. But then you have these, you know, other songs that are what make Volbeat so unique. You know, the single Time Will Heal. I mean, it's slower, it's emotional, it's a bit uplifting, and it's a really good change of pace. You know, I don't know if there was a storyline behind that one, but it reminds me a lot of Last Day Under the Sun from Leviathan. It's like that version of the song. So was there some, let's say, real life story behind the lyrics on this one?
I'm not really sure because again the lyrics is Michael's domain. Some of them are more personal than others. I think was it Time Will Heal? Maybe it was that one where some of his friends said, oh, you wrote a song about me. And he said, no, I didn't. Oh, but that really speaks to me. That's how I feel. So some of it are perhaps a bit more towards his personal side. Some of it are more straight out of, you know, horror movie or whatever goes on. And he said, I know that Lonely Fields for instance, is based around things he used to do with his father when he was a kid, and it's based around a dream that he had where his father came to visit him in a dream.
Oh, wow.
And stuff they did when he was a kid. The thing about them going out and picking corn for the birds because his father had birds. So there was a childhood memory that he had. And I think he had a dream, something where his father came and, they were going out and picking the corn. So that's definitely one of the more personal songs for him. But again, there's always been personal songs or personal experiences. Room 24 is based around an experience he had back then, and others are just pure imagination.
Yeah. Well, I think a song like, Time Will Heal, I mean, anybody could relate to it, right? It's very personal. You could put yourself in the shoes of Michael, maybe when his father passed away, and you think about it's about life and death, the highs and lows, how recovery and how to deal with the emotional ups and downs and eventually moving on. So it's very uplifting, even if it is a little bit of somber. Again, I want to go back to the song Better to Be Fueled Than Tame, because I love this one. This is like that manic rockabilly fast punk short Volbeat song, and it's like I'm just so happy that you guys keep going back to that that selection, that you're not going to just put these heavy songs in there that all of a sudden a listener is going to be like, all right, I listened to the 6 tracks and now, oh my God, they just hit me with in between the teeth with something totally different.
Yeah. But again, we've always had these type of songs, like I said previously, if it turns out more in a punkish way type of song, but it fits, what we're doing, we're going to keep it, and it's fun to play those type of songs. It's pretty hard because you got to keep it at a certain tense energy level. So they're kind of tough to play, but we've always had those songs, and it's nice, I think, actually, for when you listen to an album that something all of a sudden just sticks out, take a complete left or right turn where you kind of go, what the hell was that? Oh, this is kind of fun, So we've always had that, and we like punk rock anyway, so.
Yeah. Well, it's a good one. I love that one. So, Jon, the album is awesome. I will just tell you that, and I thank you guys for continuing to put out great new music. Moving over to touring, right? You guys have already kicked off your tour. You've played through Canada, and you got a big summer tour coming up here in the U.S. with Halestorm and a support act. So maybe take us through, the plans for the tour, and do you have any back history with Lizzie Hale and the guys from Halestorm?
Well, we toured with them in 23. Actually, we did a US tour and a few Canadian gigs. I think we definitely played Toronto. I remember that, so we definitely played there. And that was a fun tour. They're a great band and great guys and girls. So when it came up, and said, hey, you can go out on tour again with Halestorm. It's like, yeah, sure, why not? We had fun the last time, so sure, let's do it.
Yeah, it's a big summer tour because you guys are mainly playing the sheds in the U.S. You're going to be playing down by me in New Jersey. I'll be there August 10th. It's a Sunday, but I mean, in a sense, both of you guys could be the headliner. But I always say, how do you prepare a set list for a show that you're going to get maybe 80, 90 minutes? You have so many albums to draw from. Do you kind of change it up by country, or do you kind of stick to one blueprint?
Well, it depends a little bit. I mean, obviously, when we do homecoming shows in Denmark, there are songs that we usually play only in Denmark because they were big radio hits in Denmark, and sometimes we would play them other parts of the tour. Sometimes we don't, but there are a few songs when we come to Denmark. The Garden's Tale, for instance, was a big hit, our first hit on Danish radio. So obviously, when we play in Denmark, we have to play that one. If we don't, we're going to get killed. Obviously, For Evigt is in the set, and we actually did For Evigt on this Canadian run we just did, and it went down great. Right. Even though we were kind of thinking, well, maybe we shouldn't play that one, but because again, he's singing in Danish, who can understand that but us? It sounds like you have a hot potato in your mouth. but it went down great in Canada. So I guess we're going to keep that one in the set for the US run too. We want to play as many new songs as possible.
Sure.
But we can't play the whole album, in one set. We can't do that, and we know we can't do that. So we're definitely going to change some of the new songs during the tour. But the goal is, when we're done for this year, that we can go back and say, oh yeah, we definitely played all 10 songs. There might be songs that may not work live, some of the new songs. You don't know until you try them. But there's also sometimes, we've been playing a songs where we kind of went, didn't go down too well. And then you see people's comment on Facebook, or management goes, why, that was the greatest song you guys have ever done. It's like, what are you talking about? It sounded like shit. No, it was amazing. It was great. But yeah, it is getting more difficult to put a set list together, because now we got 9 albums. We want to play stuff from all 9, but we don't really play anything from the first 2, maybe 3 albums anymore, because it seems like the majority of people who are there, they don't really know those songs. I mean, obviously you can now get those albums in the United States and Canada. You couldn't 10 years ago. You couldn't really find them because there weren't any really distribution for it. But now there is. But it seems like a lot of people don't really know those deep cuts, if you want to call it that. And we know that we have a handful of songs that we have to play, whatever we want or not, but we have to play them. And that not only goes for us, but I guess that goes for any band out there.
Of course.
And even though you kind of think, oh, do we really have to play that one again? Yeah, it was a big hit. Yeah, but we don't want to. Well, you better do it. And, I can tell you a little story about that. A couple of years ago, we were doing a summer tour in Europe, and we were supposed to go to Norway and play a festival in Norway. And we said, okay, we're back. We are Elvis metal. We're not going to do the song For Evigt. We're not going to play that one. Fuck that. No, let's play some of the more toughest songs. So we were in Norway, and a friend of Michael came up for that show because he had family up there. And he said, yeah, I'm really looking forward to see you guys tonight. And I can't wait for you to play For Evigt. And we were like, what? Yeah, For Evigt, man. I can't wait for... And we said, well, we're not going to play that one. And he was like, what? You're not? No, we're not going to play that one. Fuck that, that's blah, blah, blah. And he said, are you guys out of your mind? No. That is probably the biggest song in Norway over the last, 5 or 6 years. And you're not going to play it? And we were like, fuck no, we're not. Fuck that. No, we're a heavy metal band. We're going to do the heavy stuff. And he was like, yeah, well, it's your funeral. So we did the show. We didn't play the song. The next day, we went on Facebook to see people's comment. And a lot of people went, yeah, it was a great show, but why didn't you play For Evigt? And that was the key word. Why didn't you play? Why didn't you play? What the hell is wrong with you guys? Why didn't you play that? Have you forgot? And like, oh, shit. So we went to Sweden 2 days later and doing this festival in Sweden. And one of our management guys came up and said, so, I heard you guys were not playing For Evigt in Norway yesterday. We were like, nah, no. He said, are you going to play it tonight? No. He said, well, you better. This is the south of Sweden. There's going to be a lot of Danes here. This is a big song. You have to play it. We were like, well, we hadn't rehearsed it or anything. He said, you don't need to rehearse that song. Just go out and fucking play it. So we did. And Rob had a heart attack because Rob was a stickler for rehearsing. And we said, Rob, we got to play it. And he was like, no, we can't play it. And we said, well, we have to. If you don't want to play it, we'll play it. So we ended up playing it. And that actually taught us a lesson that there just are, 5, 6 songs that we have to play every single night. Even though some people are still complaining, oh, they're playing this song again. Yeah, well, the majority of people want to hear that song, Yeah. And, like I said, it goes for every band. I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan. I love Maiden. They were my favorite band of all time. But every time I go to a Maiden show, it's like, oh, God, they're going to play the Trooper again. I've heard the Trooper so many times. I'm sick and tired of the Trooper. But I'm pretty sure if I went to a Maiden show and they didn't play the Trooper, I would probably go, yeah, it was a great show, but where the hell was the Trooper? You're supposed to play the Trooper. Why didn't you play the Trooper? So we know that there are a bunch of songs that we have to play, and you know that's fine, you know, because I think you also have to remember, especially when you do these for the US tour, these summer shit shows. A lot of people who comes, they know the singles. They may not know the album tracks, but they know the singles. And if you don't play the singles, they will probably go, "What the fuck was that? Why are they playing some obscure stuff? We just want to hear, you know, the singles."
Yeah.
And that's fine, you know, whatever we want it or not, but we know we have to. And once you start playing some of those songs, you kind of, and you see the reaction of people. You can see the smile on their faces, and they're singing along. You kind of go, "Oh yeah, I get it."
You know, it's funny, John. I used to work for a company in Belgium, and I was fortunate before COVID to catch you guys over in Antwerp. I think it was in 2016, and it was at the Sports Palace, the sports arena with Baroness and I think Danko Jones. But my God, what a different vibe being there because it was a European crowd. I mean, in the US, they're a little rambunctious. I don't personally like it. They tend to talk between songs. They go out to go take a piss, get a beer. But in Europe, everybody's seated, everybody's quiet. You know, such an awesome vibe over there. I almost wish we could copy that over there. But, you know, it is. You're a global band. This is what you have to face.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously there is a difference in the crowds, but there's a difference in the crowd, you know, even in Denmark and Sweden can be two different crowds. Germany is a whole nother chapter. You know, and again, it's certain parts of the U.S. has a more, I don't know if you want to call it a more rowdier crowd, but, you know, definitely a bit more, perhaps, you know, bigger guys, you know, pushing each other. And other places, you know, people are just standing and listening to the song. So yeah, every place is actually different.
Yeah. And it's, you know, especially in the States, you guys are at that headliner status now, right? So you got to think that, you know, the reason you're selling tickets and people are coming to see you with 12, 15,000 people is because of the amount of songs that have been on the radio for, let's say, the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And that's what got you there. So before we, you know, divert and finish this up, hey, John, what do you think of the Iron Maiden, the new set list? We were talking about this last night. My co-host and one of my other buddies, we were sitting around having a coffee, and we were debating, is this a great set list or is this just more of the same? What do you think, being the drummer?
I think I mean, they have put some songs back in the set list that they haven't played in ages. But again, you know, even though they said, you know, we're going to do only from the first, was it 8 albums, 9 albums, there are still, you know, they still do Fear of the Dark. You know that's going to happen. Number of the Beast, you know it's going to be there. The Trooper is going to be there. My only thing was that I thought, oh, maybe they're going to play something from No Prayer of the Dying on this one. I thought, oh, maybe they'll do Tail Gunner instead of, you know, Aces High. I thought that would be awesome. I mean, they played Aces High so many times. It could be great to hear Tail Gunner again. I don't think they ever played it ever since they did that tour way back.
I don't think so. I think you're right.
I don't think they ever did. So I thought, oh, it'd be great if they put Tail Gunner back in. But, you know, it was still Aces High. But I think actually it's a pretty interesting set list that they got. You know, Murders in the Rue Morgue is back in. Obviously, for me, if they would do a song like Purgatory, that would be awesome. That would be great. But again, you know, you got to think about it when you look at the Maiden tour. They're doing God knows how many thousands of people. I mean, their show in the UK was it 70,000 people or something like that? It was huge. It was massive. So again, you know, they have to play, you know, Number of the Beast, Run to the Hills, Fear of the Dark. Iron Maiden obviously is always there. That's the name of the band. So obviously they're going to play it. I was actually kind of happy that they didn't do Where Eagles Dare. And the only reason I'm happy, because that's one of my all-time favorite tracks. But for me, Where Eagles Dare, that's basically Nico's song. I mean, that was his introduction to the Maiden fans, you know, that amazing drum fill. I'm sure that what's his name, Simon, who's playing the drums, I'm sure he can do it. It's not that. But that, to me, that's Nico. And I read an interview with Bruce where he said he didn't think they should do, what was it? Remember Tomorrow? I think he said, I don't think we should ever play that again. That belongs to Paul Di'Anno. And, you know, I get that. I get that. But no, I unfortunately wasn't able to see Maiden on this run because we were in Canada. Of course. Of course, we were in Canada when they were playing in Denmark. But, I think the set list was, it was good. I personally wish they could have dug a little bit deeper and maybe put out, like a song like Purgatory or what else? I know they're never going to play Gangland or something like that, but maybe something really obscure. But I guess you really can't if you're playing in front of that many people, because they have to have these 5, 6, 7 songs that people want to hear, and they expect them to be there every night.
Well, Jon, they always follow suit where year 1 tends to be Europe and South America. Year 2, they come to North America. So that'll be 2026. I think you guys need to call Ron Smallwood and say, listen, we demand Volbeat is the support act on the U.S. tour.
Actually, we did support Maiden last year. We did 2 shows with our Maiden last year in Brazil, actually. They were playing at the end of the last tour they did. We got the offer to do 2 shows with them in Brazil. And we have often talked about, because we've been blessed to actually go out and play with most of our heroes, Metallica, Motorhead, Megadeth, Black Sabbath. Who else is on that list? Merciful Fate, but we never played with Maiden. And we always talked about, wouldn't it be awesome if we could play with Maiden? Just so we could say, yeah, we did it. And then the offer came, our management got in contact with us and say, hey, we got an offer for you guys to do shows with Maiden. And we were like, oh, yeah, let's go. Yeah, but it's in Brazil and it's in December. Oh, okay, so we have to fly all the way down to Brazil to play 2 shows with our Maiden. Should we do it or shouldn't we do it? And Michael and I talked a lot about it, because it's like, it's December. We're just in the studio. We don't really have a guitar player. We need a guitar player. So obviously Fleming came in and did the show. But in the end, we were like, this might be our only chance ever to play with Iron Maiden. So let's just do it. Fuck it. Let's go to Brazil and do those 2 shows. And it turns out, actually, it's maybe a little bit part of Maiden history, because that was Nico's last shows that he did. He retired after those 2 shows. So afterwards, we were kind of like, well, it was actually good that we did it. So at least we can say, we did play with him, and we did meet Steve. Actually, Steve Harris came by and said hi. That was very nice of him. Talked to him for a little bit, So we have played with Maiden.
Wow, that's good. Well, hopefully, fingers crossed for more to come. Jon, commenting on the Danish metal legacy, right, down the line, it was funny. Last week, I interviewed a new up-and-coming band called Animalize. They're out of an 80s style band. They're new, and their manager is Ken Anthony, who managed, Merciful Fate. But I'm always curious, like, have you guys ever had conversations with like King Diamond or Lars Ulrich or even Mike Tramp about, Denmark's role in shaping heavy metal history? Because you guys are maybe an exclusive club, not a big one, but there's some really important things that have come out of your country.
Well, we've never talked to Mike Tramp, actually. Never met him. I don't know if Michael have met him, but I definitely haven't. But yeah, every time we come to Dallas, King, if he's home, usually comes by and hangs out for a couple of hours, and telling stories and all that stuff. But it's not something that we've never really talked about as such.
Yeah.
Not really. And it's not something that we really think about, to be honest.
Okay.
And we definitely never talk to Lars about that. Talk to Lars about a lot of stuff, making fun of each other, but not something like that. No.
Okay. No problem. Well, you probably haven't met Mike Tramp, because he spends 90% of his time touring the U.S. because he was just over here recently. Yeah, he does a lot of touring. He was over here about a month ago. But Jon, this has been an awesome time conversing and getting to know you. I wish you guys the best of luck with the tour.
He's playing White Lion songs, right?
Yeah, it's a whole White Lion only tour. So you never know. You might see him over here when you're still there. But
Maybe.
so for more information on Volbeat, head over to volbeat.dk for all of their news, tour dates, and links to their socials. So, Jon, this has been awesome. Maybe I'll get a chance to actually meet up with you in New Jersey. We'll see if we can make that happen.
Sure.
And we see how it goes. So
Yeah.
we appreciate it. So for my guest today, Jon Larsen, I'm Metal Walton. This has been Metal Mayhem ROC.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.